Neurodivergent Motherhood Unplugged, a live talk show and podcast where discussion flows freely around topics that impact our journeys as mothers to neurodivergent individuals. We share candidly, kindly, and inclusively about our experiences, hopes, and dreams. Join us in a place where you can feel seen, heard, and not alone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent Motherhood Unplugged. Beside me, I have Kirby Morgan, and we are still missing Claire, and our thoughts are with her. Tonight, go ahead.
I said, yes, they are. We miss you.
No. Tonight, we're going to be continuing our series for vocational skills and life skills. And so tonight we have Miss Tia, which is the mom of Trev Trade Soaps. And so we're so excited to have you on the episode tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and let you kick it off and tell us about yourself.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. First of all, it's exciting to be here with you. I try to listen to your events every time, and I think you've had some amazing speakers on, and I've learned just so many great little tips and tricks and tools and along the way. And so I think it's just really great when we can share our experiences with others. And hopefully tonight we'll have something that will be of value for somebody else. And that's part of why we're sharing our journey and sharing where we've come and where we're headed. So I'm Tia, and I am Trevor's mom. Trevor was born at 26 weeks, weighing 1 pound 7 ounces.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he was a micro preemie. He spent the first 101 days in the NICU, and that was a tricky, really hard time. We didn't know if he was going to survive. I'd get calls saying, you need to get back over here because we think he only has an hour. And so, we would fly back over and then the hour would go by and he'd still be here. And I would just sit there because we couldn't touch him even at that point. He was just too fragile and too small. And so all we could do is just kind of sit by the isolette and just talk to him. Really, that was about all we could do. And so that was his pathway into the world. And so as a result, Trevor is now a young adult. And he has multiple disabilities, autism included, intellectual disabilities, epilepsy, a lot of medical things. Pretty much every system in his body has some specialists that we see on a very regular basis. So he's a complex young man and has been a complex young person all of his life. So it became very apparent that for Trevor, traditional employment might not be an option for him. His needs were just such that it would be very difficult to find something that would be able to accommodate him and that he would enjoy. That was the other thing is where would, if he went into a program, a day program or something like that, would they do something that he would enjoy? And if it's wiping down tables, I can tell you that's not Trevor's cup of tea. Like, he's not going to enjoy that. Others might, but Trevor won't. If it's doing gardening work, again, that's not his thing. And so kind of those more traditional slots that we see young adults going into that have complex disabilities really probably would not have been a good fit for Trevor.
I think that's really important to mention, to do something that they would enjoy, because I think that when these programs are put together and we're just throwing these kids into it, a lot of the failure has to do with they don't want to stock a machine, or they don't want to, and that, like, for my son now who's 12, he also sounds a lot like Trevor. He has epilepsy, he has a lot of things that go with autism. It's never just autism,
Right. Yeah.
And almost, I want to say some days autism would be the simplest part of the thing.
I
But
agree.
it wouldn't be productive to put him into a program to something that he hated. It just wouldn't work out. And like today, he needs to be motivated, or he's not going to sit and do what you want. Like there has to be some motivation for him.
I think that's so true. And that was always one thing when I looked at quality of life for Trevor and what that would be. And you know, that's different for every person, but you know, as his parent, where did that lie and what was that going to be for him? And so you know, we didn't set out to start a business for Trevor, but it kind of unfolded over a series of events that I never could have predicted or want anybody else to ever have to experience. So Trevor was in a program that was specifically designed for autistic adults in the Southern California area. It was supposed to be one of the very best premier educational programs, and it turned out to be quite horrific, actually. And eventually it was just not going to be a good fit for Trevor, and we finally wound up doing homeschooling. And it took us 2 years of trauma-based therapy before I could even introduce any academics back into Trevor's world. So we did, it was really rough. That was a really dark, rough period of time for us. I really struggled during that time with a lot of guilt. Why didn't I do it sooner? Why did I keep him in that environment? Why did I trust the people that were telling me these things? Why? And I took a lot of that on, and I really had to work on myself in that too, in order to let that go and then find a new path forward. And so we both did counseling for a very long time, and I think there was great value in that for us. And so we were just at home doing all of our therapies and our home stuff and doing social activities and just trying to be as well-rounded as possible. And we did a lot of project-based learning. And one of them was making soap. And it just clicked, and Trevor loved it. It was kind of amazing. So we just started making soap, and it was great because it was also so hands-on that I could add everything in there that I wanted him to be focusing on, whether it was just being able to navigate a workspace and being able to understand how to clean items and put things away, and you know, those life skills pieces could all be incorporated into this process. And so that's really how it got started. And again, it was just trying to have that quality of life, have that experience, and it just blossomed from there. So
I love that. And I think it's funny that he just loved making soap, that you just tried that out, because if you hadn't have tried that, would you have ever known? How would you have ever known? Because that's such a random
exactly
project.
And I've always been, it's about the experience, giving him the opportunity to show us, to show me, to show others where his interests lies, where his strengths are, what he desires to be and become, and following that lead. And once we kind of fell into the soap making, then it was, okay, great. We can put every life skill, every job skill, everything into this process, because it's a process to make soap. So, incorporating all of those skills all along the way, from Trevor having to look up recipes and write them down and then measure and, do all the calculations, and then starting to do orders, how much product are you planning on making? So how much supplies are you going to need? And all of those kind of things are all great academic and life skill lessons that go along with this. And so it's really been quite remarkable.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm just blown away. I think that is just amazing. I mean, it's like always, like you said, it's wrapped into one. You know, you're
Exactly.
achieving everything you need into one thing. So that's just amazing.
And we're doing it with something that Trevor likes.
Yes.
So his buy-in, which I think we all know is the key to so much stuff with our kiddos, is getting that buy-in and sparking that interest, sparking that drive, And then with Trevor, he gets so much positive accolades with his soaps. And it started with our family, and he gave them all to everybody, and then he gave them to the neighbors, and then the neighbors, more and more neighbors, and then pretty soon it just turned into this thing. And every time he gives out his soap, he just sparkles and shines. I mean, he loves it.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
Right. So he has that intrinsic motivation, which I think is sometimes a really hard thing for people on the autism spectrum to really get, that intrinsic desire to do something versus that external reward-based, contingency-based approach that is pretty universally standard when we look at education or programs for our people with disabilities. So that intrinsic motivation is huge.
From that
really,
inside
really
pride, it's a total different motivation, and it's
exactly
not based on what you're gonna get.
Nope.
Now, what age did you say he was when y'all kind of shifted from your typical school to?
He was 17 when we did that, and so we didn't get into soaping until we've been doing the business about 2 years. Trevor's been making soap for about 4 years.
Okay.
And so it's been quite a learning process for both of us, but it's been an amazing process too. And so many doors have opened when you're walking a path that fits, if that makes any sense. And being, again, just being open to where that might lead. If you had asked me when Trevor was 12, would he be interested in running a business? I probably would have said, I don't see that, but maybe. Or would he be interested in making soap? I probably would have said, he doesn't even like to wash his hands, let alone make the soap. I mean? So, it's just being open to that, I think, is really key.
Yeah. So what did those early years look like from the diagnosis to 17?
Since Trevor was born such a preemie, he was in the NICU, and we knew we were going to have disabilities. He had what was called an interventricular hemorrhage, which is basically a stroke, day 3, and they categorize them 1 through 4, 4 being catastrophic, and they stop all life-saving measures and supports, and they just let them pass. Trevor had a 3.5. So, yeah. So that was definitely quite the conversation. And so we knew when we brought him home that he would likely have some significant disabilities. I will say that the prediction we received and the outcome that we're experiencing now are 2 very different things. They did not expect, his team of doctors at the NICU did not expect him to ever be able to walk or talk. Basically said that he would be, he would probably have to be on some sort of a feeding tube type thing, all of that type of stuff. And amazingly enough, that hasn't been Trevor's story, which is remarkable. Yeah. And I really think a lot of this is, we came home from the hospital with early intervention services. So we came home with OT, we came home with speech, which is funny when you think of a little premature baby coming home with a speech therapist, but we did, because it was all oral motor and all of those and all those feeding issues and all of that kind of stuff he needed to have help with. So he has been a very intensive early intervention child. When he was young, we always had the private therapies through the insurance and all of that, and then the early intervention services. and then also the school-based services. So he was, and he still is, pretty service orientated as far as all of his therapies. And I really think that makes a big difference. I mean, left to my own devices, I was a teacher before I had Trevor, but being a teacher and having a special needs child that's medically fragile is a whole different, I was way in over my head. I had no idea what I was doing. So I needed those therapists to really help walk me through all of that also. And, Trevor didn't really have language of any meaningful, like verbal language for, gosh, till he's about 6 or 7. And before he started to string maybe 1 or 2 words together. And now he'll speak in complete sentences and thoughts and those kind of things. So that's really nice. Sometimes it's hard for him to communicate. The words don't quite come out quick enough and his brain's moving faster and those type of things. So we have to slow it down. So language took a long time. We just thought, he's never going to talk. Okay, what does that look like? Where do we go? How do we navigate that? And now it's like he will not be quiet. So, and then same with walking and those type of things. He didn't walk until he was unassisted. Close to 5. So he really had a lot of delays in those areas. Motor movement, motor planning, all of that type of stuff was really a challenge, and still is. But he can navigate, and he gets up and goes and does his thing, and doesn't need a device to help walk or anything like that or communicate. So that's been remarkable to watch that progress happen. And I really believe it's that consistency from very early on and creating those neural pathways and creating those objectives in order for him to move all of those little tiny steps. Trevor was not somebody that would be able to learn anything independently. Everything had to be taught to him. And I mean every little step.
That's Jaden. That's my son, Jaden. You have to break apart. I never, like, the same way, like you said, a teacher. I never, like, we had to pull apart brushing your teeth into step by step.
Yeah.
So it was just I don't know where we would have been without his team that came into our home to show us, because now I know how to teach him a new skill, but I had to get a education like stat on. Really,
I agree. I didn't know how to do any of that either, and I don't think it's a natural thing that parents intuitively know how to do. And it's certainly not something that had touched my world before. Trevor is our only person with disabilities in our family. He's an only child, but he's surrounded by cousins and aunts and uncles, and they're doing their thing. And his older cousins, they just, it just happens. They just all of a sudden are walking. They're just all, and not that you don't help them, but they're just doing their thing, right? You show them a couple times and off they go. But with Trevor, it just isn't, and it still isn't that way. We still have to break things down into new activities are always broken down. So we always do the task analysis. We write it all up for him. And that's been one of the key things with the soaping, is to increase that independence for him, and that self-confidence is giving him those tools in order to do that, and showing him step by step how he needs to do it. So we actually have a big binder, and we keep all of the different processes in this binder, and he can now flip it open. Okay, Trev, we're going to make whatever it is. Let's say we're making a lavender soap or something. All right, go to the lavender soap page, and he'll flip it open, and then he can read each one of those steps, because each recipe is different. There's basic familiarity in all of the recipes, because you have to get out the bowls, you have to get out the blenders, you have to get out all of your ingredients and all of your tools, so that stays the same. And that he's very independent with now. But at the beginning, he wasn't. We really needed to show him and provide support for him so that he could be successful without frustration. And I think that's the other key that I've really learned along the way, is that nothing has to happen overnight, and to never give up and just always presume competence. That's huge. Always have the presumption of it will happen, and it does happen, and the ability is there. And that I learned very early on, from a remarkable therapist that we worked with that was really so helpful. So that made a big difference for us.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people, because of our kids, they don't talk. Where my younger son is in your face from the second you would walk into our home, and so like Jaden, he often like kind of just like slips into like the sofa, like just a pillow, or a lot of people don't acknowledge him, or because I wouldn't say he's quiet. I mean, that's a stretch, but he's not like verbally engaging them or participating per se the way that everyone else is participating, or what looks, what everybody expects, participating the way that it's expected. So I think that's just a hard thing. And I always notice when people like go out, just acknowledge him or see him. And
Right.
those people I always notice them. I always am like,
yeah, we're in that same boat, Kirby. Because we have Bryce, and then Drew is, like Jackson, he's in your face. And so Lucas often does get left behind out of a conversation, or, and I think it's a lot of, they just don't know how to relate to him, or they don't know how to initiate that conversation. But yeah, so like when we were talking about the cousins, it was so weird with Lucas and Drew. I mean, we got Lucas at 3, and he was doing like infant things, like 3-4-month-old things. And then when Drew came along, and he's now 3, and it's like, wow, this is what he should have been doing at that age. And it's really an eye-opening experience, because Drew just like catches on, and it's just so easy for him. Where Lucas, you have to break it down step by step. So that is a neat point that you brought out.
And I think that's hard for parents. I mean, I grieve that still for Trevor. I grieve that easiness of life, that flow, it just comes. Like, I grieve that for him. And I think, why does it always have to be so hard?
Yeah.
Why does every process, every step have to be a challenge? Why can't it just be easy? And their bodies and oh dear, here he comes.
It's okay.
Just 1 second.
of course.
If this is appropriate to walk, you can come and see. Right now, you can come.
I can't come right now.
I'll mute her so they can talk. This is the real life, and when you...
Oh, she's muted.
Sorry, I muted you so you could have your chat.
Oh yeah, well, Trevor gets very limited screen time in my world, because this was a big learning curve for us too, because every therapist was like, they've got to do screen time, and they always said, that's the only thing he'll work for. He won't work for anything else. And I'm like, well, there's always a lot of challenges around screen time. That is a trigger for Trevor. And it just gets his brain spinning too fast, and it just is always a trigger. So I have limited his screen time, but right now, because we don't have care providers right at the moment with our move, he is just in hog heaven, and he's like, woo-hoo!
We're in that same boat. Lucas cannot have an iPad, and it's good, but it's bad at the same time. I mean, we have broken so many iPads, so we just stick to TVs only, and we try to limit the TV time, because it just overstimulates him. It's just...
We're working on Jackson right now, and to take it for someone who has ADHD and not autism, it's still difficult. Like, it is like, he is like you would think I'm like cutting his arm off because his TV has to, like, because we have times you can't just wake up and turn on your TV as soon as you wake up. I keep saying to him, you were in the doctor's office with me when they were telling us all these things that we could do to help you, because he's not sleeping, so he's having a really tough time sleeping. So it's like, I really want to exhaust all the options that we can, because I want to teach him these coping skills and how to. And it was really recommended that we decrease his screen time by a lot.
Isn't it hard? I mean,
It's really hard.
So hard. It's so
like,
addictive.
It's so hard.
And then there's so many behaviors around it.
Yeah.
And he's like mad. He's mad about this.
Oh yeah, same with us. It took us a few years to get to this point where he is accepting and can tolerate what we've done. And so basically Trevor gets no screen time throughout the day, because we used to do like small chunks. Okay, we can earn, or we'll get screen time about this time of the day, and then again at this time of the day, for small periods of time. Well, all that did was create this perseverative loop. I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And his whole day was just waiting for those moments of time that he had for screen time. And finally, I just said to all the professionals, I said, I understand what you're saying to me, and we have tried this for years, and it does not work for Trevor. So now we're going to try it my way. And
Mama knows best.
I mean, I really bought into what they were saying, and I did it for a lot of years. And I just thought, this doesn't work. Like you said, how many iPads can you go through before you finally say, okay, like, hello, this is not an appropriate tool to be using on a daily basis or whatever. So now Trevor, he gets it in the evening. He has his whole schedule that he works up. We sit down first thing in the morning and we write up the schedule and we go through it. And before our move, he had a job coach that would come in and help him and those kind of things too. So we'll reintroduce those people once we get everything settled. But so right now it's just he and I. And, we go through the schedule, we write it all up for the entire day, everything he has to get done in his business, everything he wants to do for pleasure, everything he wants to do for, daily life skills. Today was laundry day, so he had to do all of his laundry, change his bed sheets, all of that type of thing. And then he can earn it in the evening. But he knows he has to get everything on his schedule done before he can even ask for it. And he knows if he chooses not to do it during the day, that's his choice. He's a young adult. He can pick when he does his things. But these are the activities, and these are the things that needed to get done for the day. So, if you're not ready to do them and you want to look at books and look at, sit and do some journaling or whatever you're doing, that's perfectly fine. Because he needs to have some ability to make those choices too as a young adult. And I have to start pulling back and allowing him to create that room for himself. But at the end of the day, we still have whatever it is on the list. And, sometimes he'll rush through it and get it done. And sometimes he doesn't. And that's okay too. So a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like letting him help you set the schedule. Maybe I should do that.
That shared control is huge.
Yeah.
And then allowing him, and what we've done now, because we've been doing it for so long, is he's taking more and more ownership and responsibility for it. I don't check in with him in the day anymore. He has his schedule. If he says, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm like, where's your schedule? Go get it. Like, you tell me. When you need my help, you come get me. I'm not going to follow you around and try to get you to do these things anymore. This is your job. These are your things. And that's really been, I think, a really great shift for us. And I would encourage all parents, when that time comes and they see that development in their child, to give them that responsibility. But with that responsibility also comes the consequences, right?
Yeah.
You didn't get it done. Okay, that's fine. That was your choice. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of that type of stuff, we have lots of those kind of conversations. So.
No, I like that. I like the shared control because our kids love control. Like they love to control everything. If everything's not going there, it's their way or the highway a lot of the times because that helps them succeed. So I don't know about Lucas, Kim, but Jaden likes things to go his way. He likes so it's when you share that control, it makes things a little bit more successful, at least.
Yeah. We were doing we use a lot of the picture cards. I call them picture cards. We use a lot of those, and during his free time, we let him pick three things he wants to do. And we've seen a little bit of help with that. But it's like his days, especially like this week, it's just like he's bored, and so he starts his behaviors start really coming through because he's bored and he don't know what to do. So I'm going to try that tomorrow. I'm going to let him pick his cards all day. Let's see what happens.
There you go. I mean, he may really enjoy that. Who knows?
He might. It might be the control that he needs. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaden likes to pick, like, when he's working for something, he likes to pick because he knows it's free time. So, like, he has special puzzles, and then maybe right now he doesn't want to do that one, but this is the one we're going to work on today, and just letting him have a little bit more control over what we do and the order that we do it in. Right now, he's 12, and he needs a lot of help with things, so we are more structured. But like, I'm trying to heat up the pool because he needs to do something, so does my other son for the spring break, but it keeps raining and it's just like the weather's not cooperating, and I don't want to pay $1 million to heat up the pool. But it's really hard during unstructured times because they are bored, and that's when we do see those behaviors come up. Because they need, they just imagine if we didn't have any passion or something that we like to do, or a book, or something that could entertain us.
Yeah. The problem we're having right now is finding something, like you said, that makes Lucas happy without aggravating him at the same time. Everything we introduce to him, it makes him mad. And so, he loves numbers and a poppet. But right now, that's overwhelming him. And so we had to take the poppet. We're going to do a week of detoxing from the number poppet. Because he's just spitting these numbers out all day long. And we don't know what pattern he's coming up with. And he can't get it out. And it's so frustrating. And I know that has to be frustrating for him, but that is our thing, is finding things that give him joy or, to regulate. This week we found that walks. So we've been going on a lot of walks. But
we found that with Trevor, or I found that with Trevor, is that physical activity is key. Really getting him out and walking, or getting out and just doing some heavy lifting or whatever it might be, right? He doesn't like a weighted vest or anything like that. But if you give him a bucket with some sand in it and say, I need this moved to the other side of the yard, go, I'm coming with mine. And he's like, okay. And that really seems to regulate him, that physical piece of it, and that big muscle movement and that big muscle energy expenditures really seem to help Trevor with that. But he doesn't want to jump on a trampoline. He doesn't want to swing. He doesn't want to do those kind of things. But so we've had to get a little creative on what that might look like. And he might move the bucket one day, but he's not going to move it the next day. So you better have something different the next day that has to be moved.
Yes, Lucas loves to throw things. And it's not that he's mad, but he'll just throw things all day long. And so we go outside and we have these wooden blocks, and I just let him throw them in the yard. And that relieved so much. I'm like, this is where we can throw. We can't throw things in the house. It was just our picture today went flying across the house. And it wasn't that he was mad, it's just that stem. I don't know what he was getting from that, but he loves to rearrange my pictures.
Well, and I think throwing is a great activity. Trevor will throw rocks into the ocean all day long, and he'll pick up the biggest, heaviest rock. And rustling it around down the beach through the sand and sinking in the sand when it gets close to the edge of the water. And all of that kind of stuff is great proprioceptive input for their nervous system. And I really think there's a whole calming piece in there that is just missing, and they actually have to have it incorporated into their days, like in a regular, systematic way, in order to make it powerful and useful for them, and to help regulate their emotional regulations and systems. I think it really does help. At least it has for us.
Yeah. I'm gonna try some more of that today. If it will stop raining. We're like that, Kirby. The weather is either cold or raining right now.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't usually rain right now.
No, it is like
Riverside at this time. We're usually able to use the pool and things like that. So it's like, what do I do with these? Like, I feel like we've been bottled up in the house for a while, to where it's like we're gonna have to get creative if this weather doesn't make a shift.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the weather's been so nutty this year. It's been kind of crazy for us too. It's created a lot more indoor time that we're not quite used to. So, but it is just kind of getting creative, like you said, and doing those things. And, one thing I had Trevor do that really seems to be great is moving his bed. So we'll, like, weekly we do this. This is the thing now. We do it.
Just rearrange.
We pull the bed out from the wall. We vacuum behind the bed. You don't need to vacuum behind your bed every single week, but we do it because this is that self-calming, that regulatory thing. It just keeps him on an even keel, and then pushing it all back in. And, and that, so we've been doing that an awful lot this winter because like you said, it's hard to get outside, right?
Everyone's bed is cleaned. Under the beds are clean.
Exactly. Does my room, his room, whatever. So
that's
been really helpful too.
I love that. Kirby, do you have any more questions before we close?
I just Tia, do you have any advice for a parent newer on their journey that is looking to teach their child some vocational skills and maybe decrease some of the screen time and things that are there?
I would say really it's one of the things that we've done too that's really been helpful is connecting. So finding that other person or those other people that can be your go-to people, and having those really structured and organized get-togethers. They can only be, sometimes we do it a half an hour and that's it because that's all they can tolerate. Other times it can go longer, but really having those structured times together, I think really builds not only for our kids, but also for us as parents, that sense of community that I think sometimes we are so isolated that we don't have. So I think that that's a really great thing. And then we share, what's working this week, what's working, what have you guys done? And that seems to really be a great tool. As far as vocational, I would start young. Trevor always had a chore. It didn't matter how old he was. It was age appropriate to him, whatever it was. But he always has had chores from the very beginning, always, because that's life, right? That's living in a family. All kids need a chore. And it used to be just even, picking up his Legos. That was part of his chore. Straightening up his room at the end of the day so that he went to bed with a clean room. I would help him, but it was a joint thing. I always expected him to be in there participating in those things. So as he's grown up, it's been pretty easy to sneak more and more and more in because that's always been our world. And he started for life skills, for example, he started setting the table very young. Put the dishes on the table, and he would just stack them to begin with, right? Okay, fine. And then it was pretty much, nope, you got to get them by every chair. Everybody needs a fork. Everybody needs a cup. Everybody needs a napkin. And just keep building on those small pieces.
Is that fine?
Yes, that's fine.
Why?
Okay.
Because I asked before I add anything.
Yes, you asked. All right, that's fine. I'll be out in just a minute. And we still love Paw Patrol, so.
We love Sesame Street over here. I don't think there will be a time where we do not love Sesame Street. We love Sesame Street.
Right, and I'm okay with that. I think that's the other thing too. Age appropriate is important, but also interest is important. Yeah. And so if there's still that desire and that interest for those things, I think there has to be space in their world for their leisure activities. And honor those requests and honor that desire for whatever it might be, while still moving them to the next level. But Trevor's 22 and he's loving Paw Patrol still, so okay, that's fine, you know. But he also loves to watch the Dodgers, and he loves, which are, you know, timeless and age appropriate for everybody. So it's that balance, I think, between those things. But really just find those everyday moments, those things that we just take for granted every day, but are so easy for us to do because it's quicker, it's faster, it's less fuss, whatever it might be. But in the long run, it makes a world of difference because they grow up knowing that that is the expectation. And even on a day where the dishes all landed on the floor, you know, because we've had those days, you know, that was okay. It was just take a moment, regroup. Wow, I see they're all on the floor. I guess you're going to have to pick them all up now. And just wait it out. I think that's been big for us. So incorporating anything you can into your daily lives is, for us, has been really quite helpful. And not relying just on the therapy times that we have, and having those expectations. I think that's the other thing too. Have expectations. It's okay to expect our children to have manners. It's okay to expect our children to say please and thank you. It's okay for our children. In fact, we should be expecting those things, right? Right. You know, and it is necessary, in my opinion, that they be expected to participate in family life like everybody else. To their level, of course, and to what they can do. But whatever that is, have that opportunity for them to be that person that participates. Even if it's hand over hand, you know, for a lot of times it was hand over hand. Let's put the fork here. Let's put the plate there. Let's load the laundry this way. With all the pictures and all the task analysis, we're all over and they still are all over my house. But, you know, it's just that piece of it. And once I got into that mindset of this is just how our world is, and the expectation that he will do these things with me and then hopefully independently, it became much easier just to think that way all the time. And so now we don't have designated vocational training per se. It's all incorporated throughout the day. Same with life skills. They're just part of our day every day.
I love that. Thank you.
I think that's so important too, because I wish somebody told me that earlier. My son's 12 now, and I'm just now experiencing all this child can do that I have been doing. And he doesn't even really even need to be taught, because he's like, Jaden, go throw that away, or Jaden, go put that, and he does it, but he just didn't because mom did it. I just automatically did it. But now that we take that moment, and yes, it's much easier for me to do it 100% of the time, but now he does it, and he's like, will even wipe his face, like things I never thought he would do, because I never had the expectation I should have, and I do now. But I wish somebody would have told me it earlier, because he's been getting away with a lot of stuff for the last 12 years, and I've been doing all the work.
They're smart, let me tell you. They know how to work the system. They know how to, like, hey, this is the easy path over here. Mom's just going to take care of it for me. All right. Especially if I put up a little resistance. Okay. You know, I mean, yeah.
It's so true. Yeah.
I've fallen victim to that more times than I care to admit.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, and we'll post a comment with your link, the website, if you want to order some soap, and all your socials so that they can follow along on your journey, because it's so
That'd be great.
fun to see. It's so fun to see. I love seeing Trev with his wagon pulling his packages to the post office. I love
Yep.
it. So
And that's just, that's just another example, right? Mobility skills, right? Can you navigate your community? I don't need to drive you everywhere. You can't, you're never going to be able to drive. Okay, fine. Well, then let's look at public transportation. Let's look at, walking. Where can we walk to and how can you get there and can you get back by yourself? I don't ever let him go by himself because that would not be safe. But, just having that, again, weaving it in. And if it's pulling his wagon down the road with all of his little cart with all of his soap packages ready to go, that's great, right? And then he has to figure it out. He has to figure out the stop signs. He has to figure out when to cross. He has to figure out the crosswalks. He has to talk to the people at the post office. All of those things now have just become learning opportunities. So thank you guys so much for inviting me on. It was a pleasure to meet both of you.
The pleasure is ours. So thank you so much for being here again. Have a great night.
Thank you. It was my pleasure and I enjoyed it. So much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.